In this video, I'm going to be sculpting with some sprue wax, some red sprue wax. I had some extra supplies from the Samson sculpture that I did, and so I thought it would be cool to try to do a sculpture just using this red sprue wax. Right now it's 11:05, or it was when I started. We're going to go till about 2 o'clock, so 3 hours. And I'm gonna try to finish the project in that time. Whatever it looks like by that time, we're gonna call that a finished sculpture. So let's get into it. Okay, so I have my heat gun, I have a simple butter knife, and I'm gonna have my references. I'll take some screenshots of this. So something like this pose, yeah, maybe both of the arms up, because I also have this one for the details of the torso as inspiration. Here's a look at the wax. Maybe I'll start off with these. Maybe that can be for the legs. And I have a piece of wood that I'll use as a baseboard for the sculpture. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is decide how long I want the legs to be. If the legs are too long, I don't want the body to be too tall. So let's say I want the figure to be about that tall, which means the legs are gonna be about half that. This tall, I can cut it there. So this is how tall the figure's gonna be, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue down one leg, and then I'm gonna have that be a through line throughout the figure and then add on the other leg to it. For him, it would be the left leg, but on the right side in this picture. And then that's just gonna come up through the spine and up to the top of the head. And then I'll build off of this as we're doing the sculpture. Gonna heat up the wood. Heating up the wood and then pressing that down pretty firm. Then I'm gonna cut a little triangle to give some support to the leg. The leg on the right side, if I'm facing him, come up to the spine, up to the head. Soften this up a little bit and then I can shape it a little bit better and then add on the other leg. It's gonna be the other leg. Gonna heat that up and squish that down. Now I'm gonna take another short piece and connect it at the hips and a little bit, something like that. Just a little piece right there to connect it. Okay, so here's what that's looking like. And maybe, I think the head might actually come up a little bit above this. Let's see. The bottom of the foot to the pelvis, and that'll be about half of the height, or it should be about half the height. So the head, so I think I will have room for the head without making it too much taller. So now let's go ahead and add in a section for the shoulders, maybe a little bit longer of a section. I could probably not use that one. Instead of just doing the shoulders, I think I'm gonna do the entire length of the arms up to the elbows, and then I'll just add on the forearms to that. I think that'll be easier. So that should be more like that. And I can double check. I'm just gonna see like the length of the elbows is about the length of one leg. So yeah, that's about right. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. Perfection. So I'm taking little pieces, warming them up when I need to have them be more moldable. And I can just kind of stick those where I need those to be. Okay, so I'm thinking about where the head is turning. It's kind of turning towards the arm that's on the back of the head, turning that way. I want to have this front plane of the face, this part of the face right here, like a knife blade or a wedge that comes forward. And that just makes building the features a little bit easier later on in the process. But I want that wedge to be facing in the direction, in the neck and everything, the direction that I want it to be as I go and start to develop the forms and add the anatomy on. I want this structure to be as accurate as possible. One of these, the head is looking up a little bit more. I think I like that better. So at this early stage, before I've added a lot of clay, is when it's easiest to make those kinds of adjustments. I'm going to cut another little triangle for this other foot. Boop. Just like that. Now I'm going to warm up the figure just to kind of finalize the gesture, make sure that some of the parts of the figure aren't too large. Right now the ankles are probably too large. Maybe areas around the elbow are a little bit large. So I'm just going to warm up the figure, do a final pass to make sure that I'm comfortable with the gesture, or as comfortable as I can get without adding more mass to see where I'm off. As I start to build out the mass, I'll probably see areas where the gesture didn't quite capture the pose that I wanted. So I can make those adjustments later, but adjustments are always easier earlier on in the process. Then I'm just going to try to capture a little bit of the gesture from the front of the leg, and then also from the side view. As much of the gesture as I can capture, I want to capture on this early stage, because typically as you start to add details in anatomy, you lose some of that gesture. So I like to try to exaggerate the gesture on this stage of the process. If you like this kind of content, now would be a great time to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in free stuff, there's also a free PDF that I've created that has links to all of the free and the premium lessons. The Figure Sculpting Fundamentals course, you can just get that free PDF and just go through the free lessons and then do the assignments, mark them off as you finish them. And then if you find that valuable, that PDF you can pay for through Gumroad. So if you want a tip on there, but it's totally optional. It's like a free course if you just go through that PDF, do the assignments, make a free account over at Proco, and submit your work. This is the gluteus medius that's kind of wrapping around, then traveling into the gluteus maximus. So I'm already thinking about the anatomy and how to represent that. By laying this in, it gives me kind of a landmark to then base some of the other structures off of. And one of the mistakes that I always make, say, oh, the glutes are like this, you know, this length compared to how wide it is, but I need to make everything longer because right now this is very thin, and so I need to make the glutes longer than it appears, or else it's going to be, you know, you have this tiny bum and it won't be proportionate with the rest of the figure. So right now everything should be nice, long and thin. So I want the heights to be about accurate, but the widths, it's very easy to add width. You can see that almost butterfly-like shape, or like X shape. Those glutes wrap around and come down. And let's continue to add some thickness to the legs as well. So bodybuilder, so very thick in the thighs. And you can see that as I've been sculpting, he's kind of bending over. Oh my goodness, look at this spider. Look at that spider. What the heck are you doing over here, mister? Wait, starting to look like an old man, all bent over. Should have probably waited to thin out the ankles until it was a little bit further along. Then we have another muscle that wraps around this outside, and that's the oblique. So that's gonna start in here and then wrap around, and the form kind of transitions into that latissimus dorsi, that big wing muscle out on the side. Somewhat seamless transition of the general form. I really like this translucent quality. Build out the thickness of the rib cage a little bit more by taking pieces of clay, or wax in this case, just increasing the thickness of that form. Oblique on the other side. Lat on this side is more compressed, like crunched, because the body's kind of crunching this way. I want to make sure I get that stretch over here and crunch over here. It's really important for this particular pose. You can see I've kind of exaggerated that a little bit. That stretch and crunch. And there's two columns on either side of the spine. There's two columns of muscles that run down that become very thick. They're kind of a primary form that the back is built off of. So I want to make sure I have that thickness of the back also in place that those bodybuilders have. So I'm a little bit over an hour into the sculpting process. So now I'm going to try to come in and start to add in the anatomy, be more thoughtful about how I'm doing that, use smaller pieces of clay, continue to build out those forms that I've already started to establish, and try to hold on to the gesture. Trying to stretch out those legs a little bit. I feel like they were getting a little short. Let's start to build out the anatomy of the chest. Right here, very large, defined chest, really stretched on this side. Stretch versus compression is really important if you want the figure to feel lifelike. And this, when the arm is up like that, the chest muscle kind of melds into the shoulder muscle. They're very much connected forms. Yeah, I definitely should have waited until things were more developed to thin out the ankles, because now I can feel it moving back and forth. And when you squish this clay, then it becomes more flexible. Like when it's melted and then hardens, so these extrusions, they're a lot firmer and more difficult to bend than these areas that have already been bent, even though they're the same temperature. So that's something else to keep in mind if you're doing this type of process, is that I should have waited. Really do think sculpting is a valuable skill for any artist. Obviously, I'm biased. Especially when you're learning things like anatomy, being able to understand how a muscle moves through space and where it connects to, and representing that muscle in 3D, it's just a more comprehensive way of studying the muscles. And so I think a really well done crochet sculpture can be worth hundreds of drawings, just because a drawing is a snapshot from one angle, and sculpture is a representation in 3 dimensions. So you just have to put in a little bit more information when you're sculpting, which I think is good if you're trying to learn things like artistic anatomy. These feet are going to be a little bit large. The proportions on this one are going to be a little bit off. Legs are a bit short. You know, it's not perfectly proportionate as I'd like it to be, but what the heck? It's a gesture sculpture study. It's not going to be a perfect sculpture, especially just with 3 hours. Hello.
We're having pizza if you want to have some with us.
Okay, I'll come in. All right, so that is the time. Well, I'm still under the 2 hour mark, or I'm still under the 3 hour mark, but it's been about 2.5 hours, and I think I'm going to call it at this stage right here. So here's a final look at it. Maybe I'll bring it inside because it's getting a little bit hot here in the studio. Take it out, and then I'll get some final shots, and then I'll show you guys the final version of this fairly quick gesture study. 3 hours is quick for sculpting. Am I happy with it? It's okay. Some things I like, some things that I still don't feel are quite working. But it was fun, and every sculpture is a learning experience, and so you get a little bit better with every one. I think this was a good thing to do, and I hope you guys, what I'd like to do with this one is put plaster around it and then melt out the wax, maybe put some sprues anywhere where to let all the wax drain, and then melt out the wax and then pour resin into the plaster to cast this in resin. And so that might be something that I still will do, and let me know if you'd be interested in a video on that. I'd be interested to know what you guys would like to see more of. And yeah, stay creative, stay productive. Hopefully I'll see you again soon in another video.